Good to see you all. Hey, we've gotten some folks in here I haven't seen in a little while, so that's great. Welcome back. It's our I don't know why we like to do this. I like to always have a little ticker here. 34th meeting. It's a lot. That's a lot. Been doing these. I think we've been doing them for almost 5 years, maybe even more than 5 years. And we moved to bi-monthly. So back to the National Tribal Resilience Data Work Group. We've got a big agenda for the day. Let's actually dive in. Let's go to our next slide. All right. Well, so let me just remind us what we like to do together today, and what we've been doing together. We like to connect national health and climate data experts. We usually invite you to exchange knowledge on priority tribal adaptation and resilience data needs, share tools, practices, ideas, and lessons learned from the field, and we like to explore opportunities to develop and scale up solutions to address tribal resilience data needs. And so that's what we're going to do today. We've got a couple of really good speakers. I want to thank Lori for lining up a good agenda for the day. As we're in our welcome and introduction section right now, I think I froze. Can you all still hear me? Okay, it's all right. If you could just add your name, organization, and location to the chat. And then if there's anybody who hasn't been here before and wants to say a quick hello, we would love to hear your voice and meet you a little bit. So is there anybody here who's this is their very first meeting? Jillian.
Yeah, I'm new at Tracking California. I joined in November, so this is the first one I'm making to, and I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. We love our Tracking California friends. Anyone else that's new? All right. And we've got Shasta here today. Shasta, you want to say anything else up here at the top as our fearless leader?
Anything else?
Done.
Yes, I want to be difficult about this. No, it's great to be here. Great to see everybody. Mostly familiar names and faces. And for those who are new, I'm glad you're here.
All right, so I think you know some of the Prosper team. We work under Shasta, the Tribal Climate Health Project. I'm Angie Hacker. I'm the lead consultant, and I'm here today with Lori Montserrat and Serena Vega, part of the team. We're going to go to member announcements next, and then we have two speakers on two different topics today. Both actually go back for just a second. We're going to have Anny Huang from the California Air Resources Board talking about their work on prescribed and wildfire emissions inventory. And then Elizabeth Rhodes and I are going to talk a little bit about the CDPH Shared Vision and Action Plan and get your input on a couple of things that are really at the heart of what this group has been working on for the last 5 years around data access. Okay, so let's go to member announcements. All right, so this is sort of an open space just because it's nice to get together every couple of months and hear from all the thought leaders and experts in this tribal resilience data space. What's going on in your neck of the woods? What would you like to share that's of value to other members of the National Tribal Resilience Data Work Group? It could be opportunities for comment, advising. It could be, we're doing this event, we just published this thing. You got to know about this new tool. What's going on out there? You can just raise your hand.
I actually do have something, maybe just for
Great.
comment or just input. We previously were looking into potentially doing something about like making some of our health data that we have on our portal available for rural counties that often get suppressed. Um, and we kind of started poking around and found that maybe there wasn't a strong enough need or use case, and we weren't really sure where to go from there because right now we have data on like asthma, COPD, heart attacks, a lot of these environmentally related conditions, and just wondering like what people think would be a useful way to make that data a little bit more available considering all the small size issues that, are out there in the world? Is that just on a as needed basis when people reach out to us, or is there, a need to make it just something that people can query on like a website and pull that data out, even if it's like aggregated across years? So it's kind of a broad question, but something we've been
Hmm.
discussing a bit.
Is that something you would like to bring as a topic to one of our working group meetings someday?
Potentially, if you think there's enough interest in that, I think right now we kind of put it on hold and figured that we would just respond to people like local health jurisdiction or partners data requests as needed and aggregate however, seem feasible. But it would be interesting to get people's thoughts on how best to make that more available to everyone.
I mean, our experience as data getters is usually please make it publicly accessible because nobody likes such
Yeah,
data
I
requests,
know.
but like or just make it really easy. But honestly, I think it depends on your volume. If you're not getting herds of traffic,
Yeah,
uh, maybe it doesn't make sense to build out a whole tool, but I think everybody on the user side always appreciates it when it's
a little
just
bit more
there.
easier. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, but let us know if you'd like more deep feedback. Scarlett, nice to see you.
You too. Hi, everyone. I'm also a Trek in California. I work a lot with Big Valley Band of Pomo Indians, Abema Atoll, Pomo of Upper Lake, and some other tribes in Lake County. We have talked a little bit about this in a past one of these meetings, but we are working on it's an NIH funded 4-year project or 6-year project with the 2 first years of a planning grant focused on community engaged process to build a heat preparedness intervention that can be held and with participants at trusted community spaces and prepare them better for extreme heat and other climate driven events, though we don't call it that anymore. And so we are piloting right now. It's just started. That's just an update. If you're interested, there'll probably be more information at a time that we all come back from being underwater. But it's really cool. We have 70 participants in a pilot at 3 sites, at a tribal site at Big Valley, a senior center, and a peer support center in Lake County. And the program is going to get underway in a couple weeks, and we'll be excited to share more as we learn.
That's
Just wanted to let
super
everyone know.
cool.
Yeah.
We would love to hear more about that when you have some findings to share. Let us know how we can help if you need us to help spread the word. We've got ways.
Yeah,
Sounds
thanks.
like you've got
We
what you
had
need.
more interest than we could even manage this year, which is a really great problem to have. And the full program, the full intervention will be next year with, I think, around 400 people we'll be able to recruit. So really getting a much larger word out will be the project of the fall. I'll put more about the project in the chat, but another great part and really interesting process has been hiring a predominantly tribal data collection team hired at Big Valley. So just a really cool, process to witness and see tribal members being able to lead all of the surveys and the data collection as part of the project too.
Well, we should share with you what is now on almost final beta version of our Easy for Extreme Heat tool to see if that would be of value to you because it's trying to lift a lot of the burden off of the assessment and evaluation process or the process of doing a vulnerability assessment report. So it'd be really interesting to see if it's, if you use it and you find it really valuable. We've been testing it with our tribal advisors and are getting some good feedback, but it'd be nice to see it used out in the field. So we can talk more if you'd like.
Please do. Yeah. With the 8 sites that'll be participating next year, we're going to be doing a resilience hub like needs assessment with each of them. And so that might be something that will integrate really well with the consultants that are coming on to do that. Yeah. Thanks.
Cool. Awesome. Hi, Bryce. So nice to see you.
Hey, Andy, good to see you as well. I just wanted to share that the Governor's Office of Land Use and Climate Innovation is hiring a tribal climate student assistant position. So any students who are enrolled in a California university or college is eligible for this position. It's paid. I'm dropping the link to the listing as well as our flyers and outreach materials. If you know any cool tribal students who are interested in this position, we're really seeing this as an opportunity to build career pathways for tribal youth to enter into like the field of environmental studies, climate services, climate data, whatever. And this position will be yeah, they'll kind of get to work with our tribal liaison, Rico Miranda of the Rumson Ohlone with the fifth assessment climate team, as well as just like various LCI projects that they see fit. So yeah, please pass this around. And no, we have not shared it out via Rising Voices. I'm not familiar with that organizations, but I'll look it up, Lori. Thank you for flagging that for me.
Thanks, Bryce. Well, yeah, if you throw some information here in the chat, oh, you did, you did. So yeah, we can get that in our Tribal Climate Health Wire, which is we're planning to get out in the next week or so too, which is always an opportunity for all of our partners here. If there's things that you want to spread the word on, we're happy to include that in our communications. We've been accumulating a listserv for quite a few years with hundreds of California tribal folks. Okay, thanks, Bryce. Well, those were some good updates. Anything else from the Hive brain, or should we dive into our meat of the day? All right, let's dive in. Lori, I'm going to hand off to you to do the introduction for our featured speaker for this section.
Great. And Serena, if people don't have the rights to share, can you make sure Annie has the rights? Anny Huang is a friend of mine and one of my favorite people at the California Air Resources Board, which I'm going to call CARB just because it's easier. She's currently the manager of the fire emissions inventory there, and she oversees a team of scientists and engineers who quantify air pollution emissions from fire activities across California. And the new database, which we got a preview of, is pretty amazing. Annie's been at CARB for a while, and previously she oversaw the California greenhouse gas inventory and a special report that synthesized 1,500 years of California fire history and the important contributions of Native American land stewardship using fire. On a personal level, Annie is super cool. She and her partner appreciate the diverse artistic cultures and traditions of Native nations, and they make a point of supporting Native artists, which we all can do, by purchasing handcrafted pieces and displaying them prominently in their home. They also visit tribal museums and cultural centers to respectfully learn more about the histories and living cultures of the communities whose lands we travel through. And she has an amazing collection of aerial photography that she's taken from planes where she has identified all the different native lands and the geographical landmarks in each tribe's language. So with that, Annie, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Laurie, for that amazing introduction. That is definitely more glowing than I was expecting. So thank you so much. I am so honored to be here, and I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to share our work with you today. And I always feel very humble to learn more about tribes, their wisdom, and traditional ecological knowledge. That there's so much we can learn from tribes. So I'm always very honored and humble to have the opportunity to talk with tribes. So I'm going to share my screen here. Let's see. Is the sharing successful?
It is.
Okay, great. All right, I'm going to turn on the slide mode. So today I have prepared about 10 slides, and we're going to start out with an overview. We're going to start out with just a quick introduction of the fire emission inventory program. So about what we do and what are different kind of data product we produce. And then we're going to talk about the new wildfire emission inventory. So my team has been working on revamping the fire inventory over the past 2 years. And we're doing the fire emission inventory in ways that are very different from how it has been done in the past 20-some years. So we're going to start out with a quick overview of the new wildfire inventory. And I'm going to give you a live demo of our data visualization tool, which is out on the internet, so anybody can use it, can visit there and use it. And then after that, I will also talk a little bit more about our new prescribed fire emission inventory, which will be available really soon. I'm thinking probably in maybe 2 to 3 weeks time. And so really, again, a quick preview of what's to come. And then we also have some questions that we'd like to seek your advice from this group as well. So one slide on introducing our program. So my program, we're responsible for working with state, local, and federal government agencies. So these are land and air management agency to quantify emissions from fire activity across the entire state of California. And we will use state-of-the-art science and technology that we are capable of. And then we also use our data to keep track of our progress toward pollution reduction goals and also land management goals. And we also provide like custom and special analysis that will support the state's mission on land, fire, and air. So we are working on several products here. So we do basically all kinds of fire, all types of fire that is open burning out in the open air. So we already have made the wildfire vegetation inventory available now. It's on the internet. And we are currently working on wildfire burning human-made material. So this will cover like any wildfire that burned down communities, such as the LA wildfire last year. And this inventory probably will come out in about a month or two. And the prescribed fire inventory probably will be available in about 2 to 3 weeks. And we also do agriculture burning, and as well as these isolated fire incidents that burn houses and cars down. So we do these emissions quantification for all types of fire. And on our wildfire inventory, so previously on the left, this shows how what our old inventory used to look like. So we will use CAL FIRE's official geodatabase for wildfire, and that contained the final fire footprint after the wildfire has done burning. Then we will take that footprint and we'll feed it into our emission model, and then we will generate a total emissions for that fire. And the thing about the previous approach was that if you have a fire that burned many days or weeks, we didn't know how much emissions was released on which day. So in doing our recent revamp, we basically developed a new methodology working with some researchers to come up with a method. So we're modeling emissions day by day for every single fire that we have data for. So in the middle, this is just to give you a sense, so the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, they also have a national emission inventory. They use satellite fire detect. So every time a satellite pick up like a fire, a pixel lit up in satellite, and then they will combine that information with whatever government record they could get from federal and state agencies. And then they will also make a bunch of assumptions. And then they will come out with some emission estimation that is by day. And so each dot represents like some kind of emission estimation they did. And on the right, this is CARB's new wildfire emission inventory. So we now use modeling methodology to model wildfire perimeter for every single day. And then for each of those daily perimeter, then we will model emissions for that. So now we have emissions for every single day. And because we have these geospatial information, we're able to incorporate more specific information about fuel, like what type of vegetation that's got burned on that day, to refine our emission estimation to make it better and more accurate. So this slide is kind of an illustration, an animation of how it works. So every dot is like a pixel lighted up in the satellite fire detect, and we model the fire footprint for that day. And then now we have this daily progression of footprint, and then we model emissions off of it. And we use the VIIRS satellite for this work. And then we also have a bunch of technical updates that we made. I'm going to gloss over this. And if anybody's interested in these technical details, please feel free to let me know, and I'll be happy to tell you more about these. But this might be a little bit more technical details than you may be wishing for today. But again, we made a bunch of improvement on the emission estimation side to make it more accurate. All right, so we're going to now go into the live demo of our emission data visualization tool. So this emission data visualization tool will be like 5 features I will be focusing on. So you can pan and zoom, you can pan and zoom, and then you can see a table of pollutant emissions by the number. And then you can also search for a particular fire that you're looking for. And then there's also instruction. So I am going to switch screen now. Oh. Okay, so right here. So in my last slide, I will provide a link. So people will have the link, but then this is already available on the internet. So the first thing you come into this data visualization tool is a splash screen that kind of tell you about what this is. And some disclaimer, so such as these are model footprints. So these are not the official CAL FIRE footprint for the day. So kind of just a caveat that this is CARB's modeled fire footprint. And then also these are air pollution emissions. So they're not equivalent to carbon sequestration. So there may be people who are interested in carbon sequestration, and this data set is not meant for that. And also this data set, because there's a lot of uncertainty in the methodology as well as the data sources that we use. So this number will have a lot of uncertainty as well. So after the splash screen, you can click on OK to go into the tool. Now, depending on your internet connection, this might take about 30 seconds to load, if you want to try it. So the first thing you will see is a map of California, and it has all the fires that we have in the inventory between 2015 and 2024. So these are all the wildfires. And as you can see, California, like a lot of areas in California have been burned during this period of time. So for just a demo, I'm going to zoom in on the Clear Lake area. And I know that we have some tribal friends who represent the Clear Lake area today. So now it looks like they are pixels because the computer is trying to load. Again, it's due to a large amount of data. You might want to give it a little patience as it loads the detailed data here. Okay, so in maybe another 20 seconds, these squares will go into more detailed data. Okay, well, while we wait for the map to load, I'm going to point to oh, there it is. Great. So in here, this filter emission box, you can pick any year from the menu. And you can also search by fire name. You can type in the fire name here in this bar, and then you will go to the fire that you're looking for. And in this case, we're going to look at the river fire over here that burned in 2018, just west of Clear Lake, just for the demo. And of course, you can look at any fire you would like. So let's select 2018, and the map does zoom out again. And then here in this bar, we will type in river fire. And here's the first one. And then it will zoom back into the fire that you have selected. And to look at the daily fire progression, if you just click on one of these area here on the map, and you can look at this table in the lower left-hand corner. If you scroll down, you will see emissions for each air pollutant that we have here. And if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you can also see the amount of fuel that's consumed. So these are vegetation fuel that's been consumed by the fire. And this table represents whatever area you selected for that day. And since each area represents a day, so this table of emissions down here represent the emissions that were estimated for that particular day. And then here you can see some information such as when the fire started. So it was July 27th, and then the fire ended on August 6th. And this fire in the end burned up more than 6,000 acres. So these are the basic information about the fire. Now, if you would like to see the daily fire progression for this particular fire, you can use this arrow here, and you can just click forward. And then you can see on the right on the map, the polygon, like the area that's being highlighted, now advanced, and it got bigger and bigger. And you will also see that the air pollutant table in the lower left-hand corner, so the pollution emissions numbers also update according to each day that you click forward. So this is kind of how you see the daily fire progression, and so on. Okay, and then right here, if you click on this instructions box, then there will be a quick instruction pop up, and you kind of talk through the different boxes in the user selection menu, and also some explanation about some abbreviation and things that you're seeing in the table. So this way you know what units they are and what each number represent. And then there's also, yes.
Quick question in the chat that's relevant for fire name and ID. What came up was 3 different river options, right? And folks are wondering why there was 3 different fire name and IDs for river.
Oh, you're right. That's a great question. So there might be more than one. So a lot of fire name got reused over time. So when I type in river here, there's 3 different river fires. So there actually are different river fire that happen in another year. So yeah, so you probably want to kind of just play around. Well, in this case, in 2018, there was only 1 river fire, but earlier on there were 2 more river fire, and they're just different river fire in different years. Yeah. Okay, that's a great question. So does anybody have another area, specific area they would like to see?
There's a question from Shasta, and I think it's just useful for us to get our brains around, like looking at this through the lens of a tribe and how a tribe might approach or use this data. What do you think in terms of like a use case for a tribal community approaching this tool? How would you see them being able to use it for their purposes and trying to protect their communities? Or is it really more just like back-end data that's gonna, I understand because you're on our working group and we really appreciate it, like how this can help inform longer term vulnerability assessments. But what do you think there?
Yeah, I think there are 2 aspects of things. So our data product is more looking into the past, kind of trying to evaluate what happened in the past. And I think to look at how to protect tribal community from future wildfire, this is looking more into the future. So, obviously looking at past data can inform the future. However, unfortunately, the past data doesn't really tell you what your future would look like. So this is a part that unfortunately we currently don't have a good answer or suggestion for, but it's a great question. And then this is absolutely important. Yeah.
And thank you, Annie. This is terrific. But I'll clarify a little bit too that one of the projects I'm looking towards doing is protecting communities when there's wildfire smoke risks in the moment. So this is not a tool for in the moment, it sounds like, but it is something where we look back and we say, okay, there was a fire nearby. These were the effects that it had. This is the sort of thing we can plan for future similarly situated fires. So in that instance, then we did have a fire here recently in Paula that I would love to look at and see if it's made it into the tool yet. It was last year, and it's called the Henderson Fire.
In 2025?
I believe it was 25. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it hasn't made it into the tool.
Dang it.
Yeah. So we usually wait until CAL FIRE finish their official California geodatabase of fire before we start working on it, because we do rely on CAL FIRE's official wildfire database. And then, usually that's available the following calendar year in like May-ish. So yeah, we have not gotten 2025.
Well, we have another one. I mean, there's never a shortage of fires to choose from in California. So we do have one that I want to say it was 22 or 23, but I would have to, I don't remember the name of it. I think it was called like the Paula Mesa fire or something, but I'm not 100%. So maybe if we go on the map down to Paula, down in San Diego County, I can, we can zoom in and I can.
Okay, let's do that.
And also, if you could speak to the fire perimeter data, Annie. I know you told us, but
you mean the Cal Fire's fire perimeter data?
Yeah,
just like a source. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very important source for us. So every year, Cal Fire, this is the scientific department of Cal Fire. They would compile the data, and then they would do data QA/QC, and they will produce an official geo database for the California. And then that data set, again, it only show you the final fire footprint, so it doesn't show you the daily footprint. All right, so we are loading right now.
There's Paula. Okay, so it's going to be that little kind of Tetris-shaped little rectangle. Yeah, there it is. The big purple one just to the left of, or just to the right of where it says Paula Reservation. Yeah, that's the one.
This one? The one
No, on the other side. That's the one. Oops,
this one?
No. Down. See where it says Paula Reservation?
Yes, right here.
Yeah, the blob to the right. I'm left. Sorry, I just Shasta don't know my left from my right. That's the one. Yes.
This one? Okay. All right, we got it. Stop
laughing at me, Lori.
Okay, this wildfire is called Mesa Wildfire in 2021. Okay, again, we have to be a little bit patient here because the map is a little slow at loading. Okay, so this is the one. Now this burned 281 acres and burned
it was in 21. It was that long ago now. Gee whiz. Okay.
Yeah. Well, according to our data, I mean, our data hopefully is correct.
No, that sounds right.
We got it from Cal Fire. Okay. So this burned for from June 23rd to June 27th, and then we only have one day of data, and the reason why is because the satellite did not detect a heat signature.
Oh.
Yeah. So for this particular fire, and this is kind of interesting. So you see this fire in this region, they only have one footprint, and that's because the satellite did not detect this heat signature while the fire was burning.
Interesting.
Yeah, so the satellite is not perfect. It doesn't get to see everything. Like if there's a cloud over it, the satellite won't see it. And the VIIR satellite fly over California at noon and at midnight every day, so only twice per day. So it could miss a lot of fire. And then if it's too much smoke blocking the heat signature, then the satellite won't pick it up either. So there's a lot of reason why the satellite might not pick up a signature, and this particular fire did not have a satellite signature.
Well, but still, there's still data here, though, that's useful data. Yeah. So it doesn't just have to be the PM 2.5. I mean, all this other stuff, the NOx and the other stuff. That's this is fantastic. Thank you.
And the breakdown between smoldering and flaming is something I've never seen before, Annie. So can you talk a little bit about the flaming and smoldering?
Yes. Yeah, so when fire burn, so if it's a flaming emissions, those tend to be hot, and then the hot pollutant rises up in the atmosphere. So what happens is that once we get up higher up in the atmosphere, it's not impacting people on the ground as much. Now, if you have a smoldering emission, so smoldering is cool, and then smoldering emission tend to stay close to the ground. So, and these are the emissions that people are actually personally experience more on the ground level. So in terms of health impact, smoldering emission matter more than flaming emissions.
Interesting.
Yes, so that's one of the technical refinement we also made when we revamped this inventory in this go around. We break out the flaming and smoldering emission. This is something that we didn't do before, so this is new.
But so I wonder too that these are all little purple blotches that you say the satellite didn't detect, but also that the vegetation down here is very different than Northern California vegetation. Yeah. So like this fire that we have highlighted here on the side of Gregory Mountain, it's just like low kind of smoldery bushes and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I mean, maybe this is detecting it. It was just like, meh, this wasn't a very hot fire, so we're just going to stick with purple.
Oh yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's right. Like this is very different vegetation than Northern
Yes.
California.
Yeah, we're not getting like 50-foot walls of flame here. We're just getting a bush that's like, I'm burning here.
Yeah. Yeah. So
It's a good impersonation of a burning bush.
yeah, that's right. Like if it's not hot enough, then satellite won't see it either because
Yeah.
satellite is looking at this from the orbit in the space, and and it has a lot of limitations. So yes, that could be another reason for sure. Okay.
Just some context might be helpful here too. Like why we're so excited, I think, of the Tribal Climate Health Project about finding Annie is because one of the big data gaps we have found over and over again and talking with tribes and working on tribal adaptation plans has been wildfire-related air impacts and the health impacts that flow from them. And what's nice about this tool, as opposed to a lot of things that are available right now, is that it gives a really specific episodic view of a wildfire's impact on air quality, where those things aren't always stitched together. And if you're doing a tribal adaptation plan, it's often really hard to get more than just like a generalized, annualized, sometimes census tract level PM 2.5 piece of data and see how that's tracking over time. And it's really just not as useful. It's hard to attribute what that's to because it's never attributable to like a wildfire event. So this is such good, I think, background data. You're compiling everything we know about what has happened so that we can, I guess the next step is somebody would take it forward and try to help us model, right? So knowing what we know about then wildfire severity and likelihood moving forward using this past data, what's that going to mean about risks to tribes and others? And then I think our hope and dream is that somebody might actually stitch that modeling to health impacts. So like if you know what's coming and how bad the emissions will be from a certain volume of wildfires, what will that look like in terms of people actually being at risk of respiratory illnesses? So that's the big view of like why we're super excited about this work that Annie is doing.
Yeah, thank you so much for that additional information. Yeah, so my sister team, so this is not my team, so they are working on some tool that kind of bridge a little bit of that gap a little bit. So they're working on a tool. I think they have a version out on the internet recently, just put it out. So that tool look at air monitors and kind of try to see whether there's a fire burning nearby. And then that's like both prescribed fire and wildfire. And so if there's an air monitor picking up higher concentration, and then there's like a way to link them together. However, that is just still air. We're not linking to health yet. So that's definitely a multi-agency collaboration to make that last jump.
Elaine, I think we have all the agencies here, so yeah, let's just do it. No, I see. We have CDPH, LCI, and you guys are like out in front on all of this, so it's exciting to have you all together.
Thank you.
Any last question before we have to move to our next topic? Scarlett.
This is incredible, and thanks so much for sharing. I feel like I'm coming a lot from looking at impacts of heat, which is in some ways less like location specific, and that's what a lot of the kind of modeling stuff I've been doing is. But wildfire is a really challenging one, especially with transient populations where you don't exactly know where they're living when you're thinking about the health outcomes. But I'm doing my PhD in epidemiology right now because I don't have enough things going on. And I'm in the phase where I'm like building what my plan for my dissertation chapters are. And one of them that we've been thinking about was this ability now to better measure health outcomes among all American Indian Alaska Natives in hospitalization records and ED, which we have access to when we work in, based on some recent changes from that HCI has done. So basically state hospital systems in their data reporting. So all that to say, I really like doing work that's way more, that has us that need. This feels like a really cool project. My job is to come up with 3 papers that are tied to health outcomes and do epi studies. I would love to talk a little bit further if that using that health data, there's kind of an application in modeling projected impacts to tribes in California from the wildfire smoke.
Yeah, great.
Scarlett, are you on our working group?
Yeah.
Yay, okay.
Well, I'm in the water one, but maybe I should start coming to the wildfire one. My colleague Catherine Carpenter comes to the wildfire one.
That's right. Maybe
Mhm.
so.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a really good group over there, so great. Well, Annie, thank you so much for sharing the tool and for participating in our working group and all the amazing ground floor work that you are doing.
I think she actually had a few more slides she wanted to show us.
Yeah.
Are we running short on time?
Are we? Oh, okay.
We are.
All right. Then we can wait until another day.
Do you want to give us like a 1 minute just wrap up of what else you want to tell us? Okay,
Sure.
sorry.
All right, just 1 minute. Okay, so we are also, so Governor Newsom has a beneficial fire target that we are going to significantly ramp up beneficial fire in California, and this includes cultural burning. So Governor Newsom is very interested in bringing more cultural burning back to the land. And as a part of that effort, we have been revamping our prescribed fire inventory. We are melding together a lot of prescribed fire data set together. It's actually really complicated to meld them together. But now our inventory is able to show every day how much prescribed burn is done in the state of California. However, we're really missing culture burning because the data source that we use did not has very little cultural burning in them. And then we know that there need to be more cultural burning, and there are probably more cultural burning records out there that we don't have. So if you have any idea, suggestion for how we can include more cultural burning in our data set, please reach out to me. And we will also appreciate any recommendation of contacts, tribal contact who may have data. And lastly, and I can provide a version of the slide deck so you can have all these links. And here's my contact information. And please feel free to explore our new inventory and reach out if you have any questions. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Annie. You hit a home run there, wrapping that up quickly. I'm sorry. We will help you spread the word about that request through our Tribal Climate Health Wire. And Shasta here in the chat is offering to assist with making connections too. So thank you, everybody.
So much. I'll share. Oh, right here. Okay, there.
Great topic. Thanks again, Annie. So let's go into our other topic of the day. I want to make sure we have enough time for Elizabeth, our guest speaker, who's going to join me in talking a little bit about the shared vision and action plan for the California Department of Public Health. I'm going to hand it off to you first, Elizabeth.
Great, thanks, Angie. Thanks so much for having me. I'm going to keep my intro quick. My name is Elizabeth Rhodes. I use she, her pronouns. I'm joining from the Gabrielino Tonga Nation land in the LA region. My role is as Climate Change Local Assistance Unit Manager in CDPH's Office of Health Equities, Climate Change and Health Equity Branch, kind of a mouthful. In the local assistance unit, we provide climate change and health equity technical assistance to tribes and local health departments. So next slide. The focus today is introducing the planning process for the shared vision and action plan for climate change and health equity and getting some feedback from you all. So I'm going to give a quick overview. We held a public kickoff session last month, and this whole year is focused on external engagement for the development of the plan. Just quickly, what we do in the Office of Health Equity and the Climate Change and Health Equity branch is we try to integrate public health into climate work and climate into public health work. So we work a lot with local health jurisdictions, which is what we call local health departments, and state and national partners. Next slide. So why are we developing a shared vision and action plan for climate change and health equity? This is actually a process that's outlined in the California Climate Adaptation Strategy, which is the state's overarching framework for building resilience to climate impacts. And this was advocated for by local health departments and community partners. And it calls on us to collaborate with local health departments and communities facing climate and health inequities to develop a shared vision and action plan for protecting health equity and well-being in a changing climate. And I want to be super clear because this plan is not intended to suggest actions for tribes. What we want is for tribal and American Indian and Alaska Native community perspectives to help shape the climate and health goals and actions that CDPH, the California Department of Public Health, and local health departments will be taking to strengthen partnership, coordination, and support to tribes and American Indian and Alaska Native communities. So just an important clarification that the plan is not intended to, of course, not intended to suggest actions for tribes. Next slide. And just briefly, the plan will have clear articulation of roles and responsibilities. We're trying to align relevant actions at the state and the local level. So the priorities and goals will be shared across CDPH and local health jurisdictions, and then the actions will clearly note when CDPH is the lead implementer or the local health jurisdiction is the lead implementer and where there's overlap. And we'll have metrics to track and evaluate our progress on these goals and actions. This is a short-term plan over the next 5 to 7 years, and Angie's going to be leading the engagement with tribes as part of the engagement process for that plan development. Next slide. And I'll just drop in the chat here also if you want to refer to more information. We have a webpage about the plan, and you can sign up for updates as well. So diving into some feedback on actions that you want to see the California Department of Public Health and local health departments undertake. Just going to share some quick background information that sort of helps prepare people to suggest actions for state and local health departments. These are some of the functions of public health, like the basic functions of public health that relate to climate. And we described 5 of them here. Today, we're going to focus on the most relevant for this work group, which is number 1, assessment, surveillance, and research. So this, of course, encompasses activities related to monitoring, collecting, and analyzing data. We use these data to understand who's being impacted by climate-related events like extreme heat and wildfire smoke. Next slide. And this is really a core function of public health. And there are many potential actions for state and local health departments within this function to address the health impacts of climate change. So what we have here is some example actions. This is not a comprehensive list of actions, but it's some examples of things that CDPH and local health jurisdictions can do, and in some cases are doing. Can monitor the health impacts of climate change events like floods or wildfires and specific hazards like extreme heat and drought, can analyze data to understand which populations are being harmed more than others, turn this data into reports and dashboards, help communities prepare by conducting vulnerability assessments, and help policymakers and community groups by exploring how climate policies can impact health. So I'll turn it over to Angie to facilitate the feedback.
Great. Well, CDPH has been a great partner with the Tribal Climate Health Project for a very long time. And in some cases, we're doing similar things. We're trying to ease the burden of tribes of trying to protect their communities from the impacts of climate change, especially when it comes to health. But in this role, I'm playing more of a facilitator role to try to gather information. Mostly from tribes. So I'm doing tribal interviews and focus groups, but this is sort of a bonus session because this group and these brains in this room are thinking so much about this topic 1 around assessment, surveillance, and research, which is really around the data gaps that we always talk about in this group. So I feel like we have some information we could share that could really help inform what CDPH wants to do moving forward. And so I just want to share a little bit about a couple of questions. So these are really prompts for discussion. I've grabbed from the last slide and just put it here, the sample state and local actions that Elizabeth just shared. But there's 2 things we want to really dive into here. One is the barriers. So below are some related barriers that tribes have already shared with CDPH that help us understand how they are lacking in the capacity potentially to protect their community from health and climate impacts. So just a few things that we're beginning to already hear, but this is not a full list. Things like what we just talked about, wildfire causes air quality health impacts, but tribes don't have the specific data to support health impacts in their own community. Some of them are doing air quality monitoring, but they don't often have like this longitudinal kind of information available to them. Potable water sources and supplies are diminishing, so sort of a drought feature, but and also being contaminated by flooding. And tribes need information on their community's water security and how to best manage it as climate change worsens. Another one we've heard is extreme heat requires emergency management notification and information, but tribes lack capacity and now, more recently, federal support with some of the changes that are happening at FEMA. So just a few. So the prompt here for this group is a discussion around what is your organization's experience with these barriers and how does it specifically impact your ability to provide services to your community. And then this next prompt, and so folks are just going to be welcome to share any on either of these prompts, is around needed actions. So on the right, those are those potential actions that CDPH and local health jurisdictions are already doing. I'd like us to get into more detail. So what's missing here or mischaracterized? What do we need to know in terms of what would be the most helpful thing for your organization in protecting tribal community health from climate impacts? And the more specific, the better. So I'm going to leave it there and leave it open. I would love to hear your organization's input on the barriers facing tribes and also what you think would be useful to come out of CDPH and LHJs. And I know the team has done a little work here just to like compile what we think we already know after 9 years of Tribal Climate Health Project work. So we can share, but I did want to leave some open space here. Actually, Shasta, I'm curious how this is hitting you.
Right in the feels. So yeah, actually I was going to be quiet because I was going to let the organization folks speak up, but looking at the sample actions, I think that's a good set of actions. I would say a broad barrier is helping tribes discover what tools exist for them to use. And it's hard. It's just hard to get it out that there's a tool like this wildfire smoke stuff. I'm like, wow, who knew? Not me. And even if it's relatively new, how that is a huge barrier, a barrier to what we can access. If you don't know it's there, and sometimes you don't even know to look for it. We have our known unknowns, but I don't know the unknown unknowns. So that I think is substantial, and it impacts, say, my ability or another tribal environmental director or environmental staff, their ability to know what they're dealing with. But in terms of the actions themselves and like missing and mischaracterized, every tribe is going to have a different set of things that they need. And there's plenty of overlap on those, but there's also stuff that's very specific to an individual community. Even using the example again of this wildfire tool, fires in San Diego County are very different than fires in Lake County. So how do we address our actions to those specific differences? I wouldn't have thought about smoldering being a more immediate health threat than a 50-foot wall of flames, but hey, they're already 50 feet off the ground. The smoke's going up. Don't worry about it. Simplifying, obviously. So those are sort of my first thoughts, and then also that this is a lot to talk about, and I wonder if there's another way for folks who in the moment might be frozen. You have a comment form. Perfect. You knew where I was going. I find that when somebody asks me point blank and I wasn't prepared for the question, I'm like, what? I don't know. Don't ask me what I want for my birthday, but let me get back to you later, because in the moment I'll forget all the things that I want for my birthday. So that's sort of what's happening here.
Yes, agreed. So this is this comment form that we had at our kickoff meeting, but it is an opportunity to add additional information that you'd like us to consider. I don't see other hands, but folks should raise their hand if they want to chime in here. I think maybe, was it Serena and Lori, you wanted to share some of the learnings?
Sure. Lori and I made a little slideshow. We won't show it, but we'll just give some high level points about what we've been working on. Just to speak to some of this stuff, we're looking at these public dashboards and reports, we're also thinking about how data is collected. So it's that breadth and depth of the data that the gaps that we're looking at, right? And so we created a data rubric actually for tribes that looks at spatial coverage and inclusion, access and applied use, and documentation and source. And so if anyone who doesn't have hands on it wants to learn how Lori and I went about it, and also with Angie talking through how to develop this data rubric and how to make it so that we're scoring these data sets for the tribe's best applicable use for planning for climate change, adaptation, vulnerability, risk, hazard, exposure, etc. And then also these are the same things that Angie has mentioned before, but like the ways data is lacking is health data is missing AIAN populations sometimes, and that's why I mentioned that tribal BRFIS and CTEC and how that data is coming out in December. The data parameters, the data is not location specific enough. And for example, also episodic data is something that's been a huge gap and a barrier for such a long time. And Annie's tool came out 2-ish weeks ago. So this is like a huge feat for the episodic data folks who've been trying to get this forever for wildfires. And then, yeah, just looking forward, like no models being able to kind of project into the future. It's a little bit hard, for example, with episodic data to project into the future where a wildfire is going to happen. And so thinking through like how that would even be possible to know and foresee, right? And maybe it's not. Lori, is there anything else that I should speak to? I know we're short on time.
I'd just say with the water data, trying to project water availability, so much of that is cloaked. The water purveyors hide a lot of the data they have on water availability. And the state oversight doesn't seem to have access to it, or if it does, it's hidden. And so someplace and some way that we could work together and get that information to benefit all.
But I think what's true here is some of the barriers that have come from some of CDPH's initial research really validate what we hear also, right, on the tribal climate health side. And so the two gaps that we've been focusing on, we talked about today, the wildfire health related data on respiratory illnesses and the wildfire supply. Those just are the two intractable gaps, right? So like more to be very specific, like, CDPH could play a role there potentially on the health side. Are there anyone else have specific indicators that they wish they could access that would really help them better understand the risks coming to tribal communities? Like indicators or types of data? Okay. Quiet group here today. Maybe we wore you all out. But just know that this is a process that is happening. You are welcome to share information directly to me as well. If you think up other indicators, other types of data, other kinds of things you might like to see CDPH do to help address these types of barriers as tribes are trying to best understand the risks coming their way. All right, let's go to the next slide here. So this is just where you can find more information with CDPH's website. You can contact this email address for questions or if you have other needs, and then that comment form I've already shared. So Elizabeth, just want to say thanks for showing up today. Hopefully that first part of the conversation is actually something of value as well. I think it's very related. Some context for what CDPH may be looking at in terms of how it might be able to chime in and support. Bryce, I saw you coming up. Does anybody have any last remarks they want to make before we close up for the day? All right. Nice to see you all. We'll be back in 2 months. And if you ever have a topic you'd like us to discuss, you know where to find us. All right. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Yay. See you later.